The movies we love writing all have one thing in common, and that's the marriage of the grounded and the fantastic. Whether that's time travel or aliens or ghosts, we love to bring those ideas into our stories in very targeted and organic ways. Sort of the David Blaine school of magic versus the David Copperfield. And that's led to us writing a lot of movies that can be done for a price, but we've always wanted to apply the same approach to a big movie. We found the kernel of an idea for one in sort of a strange place. Back in 2015, Edward Snowden, as everybody knows, released a trove of classified documents. And one of those was the DoD Black Operations budget totaling $52.6 billion. But within that, $14.4 billion of it was allocated to something very simply called facilities management. What exactly was facilities management? We wondered. Well, it's funny because the same thought popped into my head and my partner's head at pretty much the exact same moment. A clip from a movie that's almost 40 years old now, that frankly was one of the biggest reasons why we ever got into film in the first place. Last 28 seconds of Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the Ark is boxed up, put into that crate, left in that warehouse filled with hundreds and thousands of crates just like it. That warehouse, which just to say it is a public domain concept, captured our imagination because all we wanted to know was what else was in there. The clip was literally a teaser trailer for a movie that we've been waiting most of our lives to see, and finally we just got exhausted of waiting and thought, let's just do it ourselves. And that's what we call classified. To us, what that movie should be was almost obvious. It should be a love letter to the action movies that we loved growing up. Die Hard and Under Siege, The Rock, those great contained cat and mouse races for survival with flawed heroes and complex villains, mind-blowing locations and awesome weapons, especially in this case, that fall into the wrong hands. Now, obviously those movies are all rated R, which we don't want to be, but we don't want to be a kid's movie either. Tonally, we want this to feel almost like a mix of Marvel and Spielberg. Fun, but a little scary at times. Spectacular, but grounded. Smart, but for everybody to enjoy, whether you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, male, female, whatever. We want you to sit back and have a great time. Now, story begins on a ratty old wooden box resting on an altar. No sound. And slowly, we start to pull back and we realize it's in some kind of cave and there's bolts whizzing past. When we pull back further, suddenly a pair of hands comes into frame trying to grab the box. Bang! Shots ring out. The hands collapse, revealing that they belong to a Soviet soldier. When we pull back further, we can see the last moments of a huge firefight going back and forth. The last shot rings out and then it's quiet. Another soldier, American, handsome, wounded but alive, uses the last of his strength to pick up the box, carry it out of there, and we follow it past the bodies of dead soldiers in the ground, up the stairs, out of the cave, into the middle of the Tunisian desert. We realize it's 1956. The box is put into a crate, placed into the back of a Jeep, and it drives off through the desert. We stay on it like it's the briefcase in Casino going from the count room to the Kansas City bosses. It's loaded onto the back of a plane, taken off, lands in Korea, driven through a bombing raid, placed onto another plane, lands in DC. It's driven off in a military escort, delivered to a young woman who then removes the ratty box and lays it on a steel table. We realize we're in a large secret government lab, like the kind of place they built the atom bomb. Everybody gathers around getting prepared. Doctors, scientists, soldiers. It's a huge moment when finally they open the box. And for a moment, nothing happens until a massive darkness erupts out of it and starts spreading around the place like wildfire. And in a flash, one of the scientists quickly pulls an emergency cord, sending the lab into lockdown, sealing it up forever. And with that, we cut. And when we come up, it's 68 years later, present day, and we're following an old sarcophagus being wheeled into another lab, only this one's at the FBI Art Theft and Crime Division, a real unit, where we meet Dr. Charles Reynolds, one of the heroes of our story, though he doesn't know it yet. Charlie, as he's known, mid-30s, is not a medical doctor, but a doctor of art history, and he's been pretty busy for the last few years, as wars in the Middle East have led to a lot of these ancient works popping up in the black market, being traded for weapons and cash. Pops open the sarcophagus only to find a mummified body inside. It's a little scary, but what's strange is that it's holding a stopwatch that as soon as he opens it, starts counting down from 30 seconds because this whole thing is actually a dirty bomb. And in a flash, we go into the sequence. Now, they can't get the bomb squad there fast enough, so Charlie has to try to recall his training, which was a long time ago, to try to figure out how to deactivate it, but he can't figure out what to do. And it starts counting down 3, 2, 1, and then suddenly the bomb shorts out. Thankfully, it was wired wrong. Charlie breathes a huge sigh of relief and then proceeds to throw up in his garbage can that's right next to him. This guy isn't exactly special forces. See, Charlie originally got into this because he's a real love of history, and like a lot of guys his age, kind of wanted to be Indiana Jones. When he joined the FBI, it turned out, though, that field work was a lot more dangerous than he realized, and after he got shot in an ambush in Oman, he transferred back to the lab at Langley, where it's safe, usually. Little does he realize, in about 8 hours, that choice is going to be made for him because 19 miles away in Washington, something very strange is going on. Secret Service convoys are pulling up in front of government buildings all across the city. Helicopters are landing at key areas, picking up officials. We follow one convoy. As it rolls up to a brownstone in Georgetown, 2 soldiers run up, ring the bell, verify the identity of a senior official as Mr. Franklin, and then they whisk him out of there with an urgency that you can feel in your bones. The convoy races out of DC. Fighter jets swoop by overhead, and from the chatter on the radio, we realize we're under attack, and what we're seeing is an emergency protocol kicking in fast. Our convoy races right past the Maryland-Pennsylvania border, where Mr. Franklin looks up to see he's heading right into the belly of a secret facility called the Raven Rock Mountain Complex. A real place. And this is our Nakatomi Plaza, our Alcatraz. It's one of 83 military installations around the world that remains unacknowledged. Originally built in 1952 in the belly of a granite mountain, Raven Rock is the US government's very own panic room, designed to hold the president, vice president, and 3,000 other military and civilian specialists for up to 5 years following the outbreak of nuclear war. Our convoy races into the mountain, into an 8-mile-long dark tunnel, past the first of 3 30-ton blast doors. First one leads to what's called the spine. It goes 5 floors down and encompasses Raven Rock's critical systems, including a nuclear reactor, diesel backup generators, ventilation systems, even a garage filled with an M1 Abrams tank and launch command for 9 nuclear-tipped on-site ICBMs should they be necessary. And below that is a supply warehouse that looks like the most insane Costco you've ever seen, because it's full of everything from clothes, shoes, linens, food, toys for kids, but it also has a rare book library, works of art, classic cars, original copy of the Constitution, every kind of seat imaginable, you name it, it's in there. And then finally, the convoy turns and drives into what's called the hotel. And this is where all of those officials and staff can live for up to 5 years without ever needing to set foot outside. Soldiers rush Mr. Franklin into an elevator, double keys, light up the VIP floor. He's moved right into the apartment designated for the Secretary of the Interior, at which point the soldiers radio in that the secretary is in his nest, and they're told, congratulations, you shaved 41 seconds off the best time. And we realize that we weren't actually under attack, but that this was a massive cog drill, a real thing, and that stands for continuity of government. There's just one problem. The man here is not Mr. Franklin. The real Mr. Franklin is laying bound and gagged on his kitchen floor. This guy's an imposter, and in a flash, he slips out 2 syringes from his sleeves, gets both of his escorts in the neck, steals their security keys, and makes for the elevator. And now, as he's doing this, what we start to realize is that Mr. Franklin is not the only imposter. Soldiers, agents, even a janitor, they're not who they appear to be, but are actually part of a highly trained team using the chaos of the drill to methodically round up everybody and take control of the base. But back down below, our Mr. Franklin steps out of the elevator into the Costco floor, which is just cool to see even in the background. It's quiet, nobody's down there. He goes to a wall with 4 red phones, picks up the last one, rolls up his sleeve where he has a tattoo of 18 numbers, dials them into the phone's keypad, hangs up, and 2 seconds later, a massive section of the floor begins to lower right down into the warehouse. Franklin checks his other arm, also tattooed with what almost looks like an inventory list of serial numbers, warehouse locations. He strolls over to a large crate, cracks it open to reveal a 5-gallon jug of water inside. He pours some out, rubbing it on his hands, his arms, his face, his whole body, and like a snake shedding its skin, he sheds 50 years of age, and we realize it's the same handsome soldier we saw carrying that box out of the desert in 1958. Just smiles and looks at the jug's ID tag. 67 AR-4, water, youth, fountain of. Whoever this guy is, he knows what he's doing, and clearly he's got a plan. And with that, we cut. 90 minutes later, there's a war room assembled. That group of military, FBI, intelligence that are trying to fix this quickly and quietly. They've set up camps at each of Raven Rock's 2 entrances, and tension is high. They finally make contact with Mr. Franklin, and he knows he's holding all the cards. He kind of revels in it. Picture Tommy Lee Jones in Under Siege. But to everyone's surprise, he doesn't want money, he wants transparency. He demands the declassification of 4 covert operations: Clover, Bluebeard, Sundial, and Halo. If they don't release the documents in 36 hours, he's going to unleash the full capabilities of what's in this place. Screen goes to black, and everybody's really nervous because nobody in the room has ever heard of any of those operations, nor are they in the DoD classified database. However, there's one man in the room who does know: Frank Reston, former intelligence official and base commander at Raven Rock from 1960 to 1968. Picture Hal Holbrook in literally anything. He explains, those 4 operations were part of a classified special access program that President Roosevelt launched during World War II to recover collections of ancient relics that the Nazis had been experimenting on. Now, the Nazis didn't think of these relics as magic, but as scientific technologies that man didn't yet understand. Clover, for example, was the successful mission to recover a 13th century text called the Voynich manuscript that described the steps to build what eventually became the first atomic bomb. When Truman took over, make sure that all the items were kept secure, he had them kept at Raven Rock. Now, why doesn't anybody, especially in this room, know about it? The operation was designated Q clearance, no distribution, meaning only presidents were allowed to read in other officials, which was not a big deal when Truman passed it to Eisenhower, Eisenhower passed it to Kennedy, but Kennedy never got a chance to pass it to Johnson because Kennedy got shot. Since nobody else could disclose the details of the program, it eventually faded into bureaucratic obscurity. Reston is literally the last official alive who knows about it. The guys in the war room are skeptical, to put it mildly, because obviously they didn't know, but there's one detail that proves Reston's point. Facial recognition from the transmission IDs Mr. Franklin as former Marine Major Carl Stoller, born 1930. His entire military record remains classified. And the guys in this room don't have a lot of options. When Raven Rock goes into lockdown, there's no remote access by design. That means Stoller can launch the missiles if he wants to. They can't launch an airstrike because the place is impenetrable. And releasing classified information of this nature can't be done in 36 hours. Their only hope is infiltration. But given what Stoller has at his disposal, they're going to need some kind of expert, but there's no one who has expertise with what's in that vault. The closest thing they can find is, of course, Charlie. Now, to pull all this off, Stoller recruited a crew led by a guy named Fedorov, a Serbian smash and grab specialist who's fucking ferocious, the kind of guy that would shoot his own man if it was the only way to get the job done. He and Stoller met years ago in a Russian gulag. When Fedorov got released, Stoller offered him a deal. Break me out of here and I'll get you and a crew into Raven Rock, which means that at the end of the day, this is actually a heist. Disclosing classified information is just a way to buy time that they need to load everything up, and for Stoller to get the thing he really wants, that ratty old box that was pulled out of the desert. Only problem is, it's kept behind the one high security vault inside the warehouse that literally has no handle, no lock, no combo. It was specifically designed never to be opened. Now, to get in there, and in fact to pull all of this off, there's 2 items that Stoller needs. One is a Japanese relic called the Yuchi Osamu sword, a weapon so powerful if you know how to activate it, it's said that it's capable of leveling mountains. And the second item is one I actually mentioned before, the Voynich manuscript, which will explain to Stoller how to use that box the way it was meant to be used. There's just one small curveball. When Stoller rolls up his sleeves to find which crates the sword and manuscript are in, all of his tattoos are gone. The water he drank didn't just make him younger, it literally rewound the clock on his body. So now The pressure is on. Stoller and his crew have 36 hours to go through every box in order to find what they need. And that's how the audience gets to find out, finally, after all these years, what's actually in this place. Now, on the flip side, Reston and the War Room guys are coming up with a plan of their own, and that starts with Charlie getting whisked off to, of all places, Camp David, because as it turns out, there is a secret tunnel from there that isn't on any blueprint that leads right into the VIP floor. For Reston, it's clear the Deltas aren't prepared for what they might encounter. As crazy as all this may sound, he says the things in there are real and they are dangerous, especially in the wrong hands. So he tells Charlie he needs to suit up too. He's going with them. Now, given how important Charlie's expertise is, Reston has the Deltas assign an operator to protect him specifically, babysit as they call it, which is how we meet the other hero of our story, Captain Jordan Gelman. And on the surface, Jordan appears to be Charlie's complete opposite. Tough like you can't believe, with a swagger that loves a good bar fight. Women have been part of all branches of special forces for decades, but only in the last few years have they been able to qualify for the same special operator status as their male counterparts. She's got a hard edge to her, almost a little bit like Vasquez from Alien. Her whole career, she's been thought of as weaker than the guys she serves with, so she's always out to prove herself. Makes her a little bit of an army of one. She doesn't like to rely on anybody. And her and Charlie's differences are on full display from the word go. She's loading up machine gun clips, flashbangs, utility knife. Charlie's loading up an asthma inhaler, EpiPen, hand sanitizer. They're gonna butt heads, but like it or not, they're sort of in this together, or as she puts it, you don't get me killed, I won't get you killed. And with that, they're off. And so right around minute 35 or so, the incursion begins. An awesome sequence with Charlie and the Deltas sneaking into the base through an old 5-mile-long tunnel on AT. The only catch is, it's a trap. Fedorov and his men are waiting for them in the shadows, lining up the Deltas in their crosshairs, and in a flash, they open fire. It erupts into a full-on ambush. Fedorov and his men, they're as good as they come, and they quickly get the upper hand. Jordan's captain orders her to retreat, protect Charlie at all costs. She wants to stay and fight, but her captain practically shoves her and Charlie back into the tunnel while the rest of the team goes down in hail of gunfire. Back in the war room, Stoller makes contact, telling them the next time they try to pull something like that, they're gonna be watching his response on Fox News. Everybody in the war room hangs their head. Losing 16 soldiers, there's nothing that can make that okay. That is until Jordan and Charlie radio in that they're alive. Stoller thinks that Charlie and Jordan are dead. They're gonna use that to their advantage and try and sneak back through the spine of the base, back around into the hotel and ambush Stoller in the warehouse. Now, the hard part is it's not an easy place to sneak around, especially with Stoller's guys moving about the place trying to carry out their plan. So we get a lot of that great die-hard cat and mouse fly in the ointment action and tension all through these amazing locations. So maybe we'll have a chase scene in a place like the backup diesel generator area, this awesome three-dimensional devil's maze of pipes that they have to climb through, but you can't shoot because they're filled with fuel, and Fedorov is coming after them like a hunter, forcing them to quickly hide in what's called the Lucy and Desi suite, the President and First Lady's private living quarters that, and this is true, hasn't actually been updated since the 1960s when it was redone for John and Jackie Kennedy. Now, at the same time, Stoller's really our Hans Gruber. His guys are breaking open the crates, looking for the things that he needs to get into that vault, loading up the good stuff onto 4 trucks that they've lowered down into the warehouse. And around the midpoint, he's able to find that Voynich manuscript, but he's still missing the Osamu sword. Which leads us to later in Act 2 when Charlie and Jordan sneak into the warehouse. Now, Charlie and Jordan have 2 goals. Figure out what Stoller's been doing and try and stop him. Problem is they're way outmanned, like 25-2, but that's exactly why Charlie's here, because maybe some of these things can level the playing field. And he spots one item right out of the gate, resting in a staging area. The Tarnhelm, a Germanic helmet that's supposed to make whoever wears it invisible, but, and here's where his knowledge really comes in handy, it's also cursed, because if you wear it too long, it'll crush your skull. It's dangerous, but so is getting caught. So in what actually is a big moment, really for both of them, Charlie sneaks over and he takes that helmet and deep breath, places it on his head, and in that second, Charlie disappears. Jordan's jaw drops. She can't believe it. Neither can Charlie. And in a flash, he starts moving around to see what other things he can find in here. He's like a kid in a candy store, which creates a small problem because he and Jordan quickly lose track of each other. So Charlie comes around a corner expecting to see her, only to find Stoller. Flipping through the manuscript, Charlie catches wind. Stoller's still looking for the Osamu sword. Charlie carefully creeps over his shoulder, trying to glance at what's on the page. It's in Latin, but he recognizes one key word: Pandora. And that's when all of a sudden, knocks over a whole mess of crates, and Stoller realizes somebody's broken in, and all hell breaks loose. Jordan and Stoller's men are locked in a firefight as Charlie and Stoller end up in their own version of that Manhattan relic battle in Doctor Strange. That is until the end, when Charlie and Jordan get captured and locked in the subvault. Not only that, but in the chaos, Charlie did Stoller a huge favor and found the Osamu sword, and now Stoller has everything he needs. And just before he locks Charlie and Jordan away, he comes around wielding the sword, saying the key is, sword is useless unless you know how to activate it. And with that, he plunges the blade right into Jordan's sternum and locks them away. That's how you activate it, with blood. That the third act begins. Stoller takes the Osamu sword, and literally before he even touches the blade to the steel, the 20 by 20 vault door, huge, just practically melts away. And sure enough, when he steps inside, what do we find? But the vault's not just any vault. It's the lab we saw at the very beginning of the movie. This is where scientists would experiment on the relics to try and understand how they work. The whole place looks as if it's frozen in carbonite. The walls, equipment, even the people, everything except for that one item right there in the middle. That ratty box in the desert. Pandora's box. Meanwhile, in the subvault, Jordan's bleeding bad. She's not going to make it. Charlie tries to figure out if there's anything inside this smaller vault to help when he finds a jar of this dried herb called Sanjivani. It's supposed to have the power to heal any wound. There's just one catch. To make it work, you have to rub it with the tears of the injured. And with Jordan, that's like getting blood from a stone. Even now, she hasn't shed a tear, and she got stabbed in the midsection with a sword. Charlie tries to probe her past. Have you ever lost anybody close to you? You've had your heart broken. But she's not going to tell any of that to a stranger. It's a fun moment where Charlie just tries anything until finally she just snaps at him. Yes, okay, I keep things close to the vest. You think it's easy going out there for a woman? I can't show an ounce of weakness. It's like I have to be this robot, otherwise everybody starts wondering if I can handle it. But yes, I have fucking feelings too. And she just goes on, and it's funny until you realize how hard it has been on her just trying to get a fair shot at her dream, and finally she just lets it all out, and sure enough, Charlie gets what he needs, and he's able to save her life. It's a powerful moment between them. Jordan goes to work on breaking out of this vault. Now back out in the lab, Stoller gets to work. He opens the box, and just as Charlie and Jordan bust out of the subvault, a huge flash of light erupts out of the box, and then just as fast it's quiet. They look around, and now they're standing in the early 1960s. See, the scientists that perished, they didn't know how to control the box, but because Stoller has the Voynich manuscript, he does, and he knows that the box's real power is time. When they opened it, first time, it unleashed the very first moments of the universe. But if you know what you're doing, what comes out of that box can be any moment in the past or future. And Stoller has come right back to the moment before those scientists all died, because as it turns out, one of them, that very young woman who we saw at the beginning take the box out of the crate, that was the love of his life. All of this has been for her, to bring her back with him so they can have a second chance at the life that was stolen from them. It hits Charlie hard. Stoller's not that different from him. He's just a guy who could never get over his past. Stoller takes her hand. They go to shut the box together, which will bring them back to the present, when all of a sudden something strange begins to happen, almost as if reality is beginning to tear apart. Flashes of Stoller's prison cell collide with Charlie's lab, with Jordan's home. The crates appear, resealed 1 second, scattered the next. It's like something out of Inception. Charlie realizes it's a schism. If Stoller brings her back now, then somehow that changes the course of everything, so that he never breaks into Raven Rock in the first place. None of this will have ever happen. And just as it looks like everything is about to disappear into existence, wham! Fedorov slams the box shut. There's no way he would ever let all of his hard work go to waste like that. And in a flash, Stolar's fiance and that whole moment in time is gone. Stolar charges Fedorov. The two of them start to battle it out until Fedorov shoots Stolar in the chest, leaves him for dead. Fedorov grabs the Osamu sword, mounts it onto the front of the first truck. That's how they're going to get away. Just like with the Vault, the sword can just melt the granite, which is an awesome visual because it'll be creating a tunnel in real time, literally as they're driving out through it. And nobody will ever know that they escaped because the rest of his men come down, having just activated one of the warheads to self-detonate in 12 minutes once they're clear of the blast radius. Jordan opens fire. Charlie gets hit in the crossfire in the shoulder, giving Fedorov and his guys enough time to flee. Charlie tells Jordan, free the hostages and try to stop the warhead. To her shock, after all this, Charlie seems to have found that courage he's lost. He's going after Fedorov. Charlie dives into one of those classic cars kept in the Costco and he races down through the tunnel that Fedorov is literally making as he's driving. Charlie gets right on the tail of the last truck when all of a sudden he takes a deep breath and he leaps out of his car and dives onto the rear of the truck. And we realize he's strapped Hermes sandals around his shoes, this Greek relic that makes him move like he's in the Matrix. Meanwhile, Jordan's rushing through the base, trying to get to the launch control before the warhead goes off. And just as she's about to get there, she realizes Stolar has set a trap for her. The men in her unit, he's used the manuscript to bring them back from the dead. Stolar's got them completely under his control and he commands them to kill her. So as the clock is ticking, we get this incredible 11-on-1 fight with Jordan against her own guys. And on the one hand, it's the chance for her to prove that she really is tough enough to take these guys on. On the other hand, she doesn't want to re-kill her own men. That's the challenge. She has to be strong but smart with how she does it. Back down below, Charlie bounds from truck to truck, using whatever he can to take Fedorov's men down. It's like the badass version of sort of the Indiana Jones sequence that should blow everybody away. And in the end, Charlie has to square off against Fedorov hand to hand on the hood of the truck. No tricks, no relics, and you think for sure he's a dead man. But unlike before, with that dirty bomb back in his lab, his training kicks in. He's able to kick Fedorov off the hood of the truck, but he falls right on the Osamu sword. Back upstairs, Jordan's able to get past her men, but barely make it into launch control. She tries to enter the abort codes to stop this thing from blowing up when who shows up but Stolar. And if he's going down, he's gonna make sure this place goes with him. The two of them battle it out. Jordan armed only with her knife. Stolar armed with his Nigerian Kamalu sword that literally shakes the building like an earthquake when he swings it. Stolar gets the advantage on Jordan, about to drive his blade straight into Jordan's heart when who shows up but Charlie. At the last second, he throws her that Osamu sword and she rams it through Stolar 1 second before he would have killed her, repaying the favor. She leaps to her feet as the countdown winds down and she enters the abort code and stops it with 4 seconds on the clock. They did it. They saved the day. Hostages and Jordan's men are all pulled out safely. Relics are all recovered and returned. A few weeks later, Reston asks to meet both of them with a proposition. Amongst all the items that were recovered was an inventory of thousands of other items hidden at other bases and locations around the world. Now, these inventories are old, might be unreliable, so Reston wants the two of them to lead a unit to resecure what else might still be out there. Jordan has more than proven herself able to command a unit, and Charlie would finally be going back out into the field. They'll be partners. With that, Reston gives them their first assignment, a joint US-Russian operation at an old but familiar place, Chernobyl. Seems there's something there that has long been forgotten, and it's only a matter of time before it rears its head again.